As we sit in His presence, let us reflect on this very passage from a way perhaps we have never heard or gone through. And therefore I shall be elaborative. If we are Christians, we need to depend on His word, which is life. Let that life-giving word speak to us in all its nuances. We heard that God, Jesus, had to go through Samaria. In verse 4 it says, but He had to go through Samaritan town, and He reached the valley or the village of Sychar. Now anyone who is accustomed with the region, the geography of Israel, would know that a Jew would never cross the town of Samaria. If they at all have to go from a Gentile region to the town of Jerusalem, to their capital, they would take a longer path through the Decapolis region, but would never go through the town of Samaria because they were their most hated enemies. If we go back to the Old Testament, in the historical books, we already see that after the King Solomon's death, the kingdom of Judah, Jerusalem, was divided into two parts, northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Northern kingdom went away from the Lord, went away from the presence of God, and their capital was Samaria, the same Samaritan town which today God is passing through. And therefore, from then onwards, 922 BC onwards, Jesus is AD. From 922, almost 900 years of enmity between Samaria and Jewish people, the people of Judah. And therefore, they would never ever think of crossing the town of Samaria. And here Jesus says, I must go across. He had to go through. What was His reason? As Greek says, the word used dei, we do not know. He had no reason as of to go through that town, but He chooses to go through. Now, many scholars, including Father Maloney, a Salesian, who is the scholar of Johannine literature in today's world, in today's time, he says that the other name of Samaria is also Shechem. If we go through the book of Joshua, it was this town of Shechem that after having entered the promised land, after crossing the journey through the deserts, 40 years of journey, when they captured the town of Jericho, when they entered the promised land through the instrumentality of the leadership of Joshua, it was in the town of Shechem that they offered the first sacrifice to God. All the 12 tribes of Israel, therefore the entire nation of Israel, under the leadership of Joshua, made an altar of 12 stones representing 12 tribes and offered sacrifice to the Lord as a thanksgiving for having fulfilled His promise and brought them to the promised land. And Joshua asked 3 times, are you able to follow this Lord? He is my Lord. I believe in Him. But do you believe in that Lord? Will you be able to follow them? And they said, yes, surely. Not your household. Even we shall follow that Lord. Definitely. Are you sure? Yes, definitely. Are you sure? Yes, definitely. And we know in the first book of Kings chapter 18, when Elijah asked, choose between Baal and your God. Either this God or that God. Don't hover over 2 boats. The word of God says they didn't have any answer to choose. They were silent. But here, in the book of Joshua, they chose. They made a choice, decisive choice to be with the Lord. So, Shechem, which represents Samaria, is the town where Jesus is entering. So in a way, Jesus is saying to His listeners, John to his listeners, and today we, all of us in His presence, are hearing this, that Jesus chose purposely to enter a town which had gone away from the Lord. A town which was originally a place where they made the covenant with the Lord, where they all together as 12 tribes promised to be with the Lord, but now are fragmented to that extent that they cannot even bear to cross that town. People of Samaria were also members of the part of the Jewish nation. They were out of those 12 tribes, but they today hate them. And therefore Jesus says, I don't consider this enmity. For me, the Lord, it's the same covenant which I want to uphold. You have gone away, but I come to you. It is this same place where your father Jacob, his ancestors had made the promise to remain with me, and today I come here to bring you back to me. And therefore, Jesus had to enter the town of Samaria.